There are clothing brands in your closet right now that were quietly replaced with cheaper versions, and you are still paying the original price. One of the brands in this video swapped Italian leather for bonded scraps and hoped you would not feel it. Another was bought out of bankruptcy for $540 million by a private equity firm that also owns Walgreens. And the pattern behind all 8 leads back to a handful of companies most shoppers have never heard of. Let's begin with number 1. Ann Taylor. For decades, Ann Taylor was the store where a woman walked in on her lunch break because she needed something real. A wool blazer for a first interview, a silk blouse for a presentation. The clothes were never trendy, they were well made, they fit properly, and they lasted. Ann Taylor belonged to Ascena Retail Group, which also ran Dress Barn, Lane Bryant, and Catherine's. When Ascena filed for bankruptcy in 2020, the brands got broken apart. Ann Taylor, Loft, and Lane Bryant went to a New York private equity firm called Sycamore Partners for $540 million. Remember that name, Sycamore Partners. After the acquisition, longtime shoppers started noticing things. Fabrics that used to be wool blends showed up as polyester rayon. Linings disappeared from skirts that always had them. Buttons felt lighter, hems that used to be finished with care looked rushed. The blazer still had the Ann Taylor label stitched inside. It still cost the same. But the blazer from 2015 and the blazer from last year are not the same garment. A woman I spoke with still has the Ann Taylor suit she bought for her first job interview in 2009. Still in her closet, still holds its shape. She bought a similar one recently for the same price. The new one peeled after 3 washes. The store did not close, the sign did not change. She just got less for the same money, and nobody told her why. That was Sycamore Partners buying one brand. The next one shows how fast they came back for another. Number 2. Chico's. Chico's started in 1983 when Marvin and Helene Grelnick opened a tiny shop on Sanibel Island, Florida. They sold Mexican folk art and hand-printed cotton sweaters out of an 800-square-foot space that used to be a tobacco shop. The name came from a friend's parrot. Over the next 2 decades, Chico's grew into something rare, a national clothing brand that was built specifically for women over 40. The sizing was different on purpose. Instead of standard numbers, Chico's used 0, 1, 2, and 3. A woman who wore a 16 somewhere else could walk into Chico's and be a 3. The clothes were relaxed, made from natural fabrics, and designed to be comfortable without looking like you had given up. The sales staff knew their customers by name. The Passport loyalty program rewarded women who came back. In 2019, Sycamore Partners tried to buy Chico's. The company fought back. The board rejected the offer and successfully fended off the takeover. 4 years later, Sycamore came back. This time, Chico's agreed. In January 2024, Sycamore Partners completed the acquisition for $1 billion. The CEO who had led the company's turnaround, Molly Langenstein, was gone within days of the deal closing. That is the same private equity firm that bought Ann Taylor. Same buyer, same playbook. And this is only brand number 2. The next brand did something different. They did not change who made the clothes. They sold the right to use the name to whoever would pay the most. Number 3, Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein started his company in 1968 with $10,000 and a coat shop in the York Hotel in New York City. By the 80s, the name meant something specific: clean lines, sharp tailoring, a quiet New York confidence. In 2003, PVH Corporation bought the Calvin Klein brand. What PVH built after that was not a fashion house. It was a licensing operation. Picture yourself standing at a department store rack. You pull a Calvin Klein dress off the hanger. 2 spots over, you see a Calvin Klein coat. Same name on both labels. But the dress was designed and manufactured by one company, and the coat was made by a completely different one. They have never met. They share nothing except the right to print those 2 words on a tag. That is how licensing works. PVH owns the Calvin Klein name, and they sell the right to use it to different companies for different product categories. One licensee gets dresses, another gets outerwear, another gets handbags. The quality of what you hold in your hands depends entirely on which company paid for that particular license. PVH generated around $300 million in licensing earnings in a single recent fiscal year. The brand name itself is what they are selling. The clothing is just the surface it gets printed on. When you buy Calvin Klein in 2026, you are not buying from Calvin Klein. You are buying from whichever company paid the most for the right to put those two words on a tag. And the tag does not tell you who that company is. Now, everything so far has been about what happens to the name. The next brand shows what happens when they build a completely separate product and put the same logo on it. Number 4, Coach. Coach started in 1941 as a leather workshop in Manhattan. The bags were glove-tanned cowhide, heavy and soft, the kind of leather that aged well. Your mother probably had one. Today, Coach is owned by Tapestry Incorporated, which also owns Kate Spade and Stuart Weitzman. And unless someone told you, you would never know that Coach quietly runs two completely separate product lines. Walk into a Coach boutique in a nice shopping district, pick up a bag, full-grain leather, solid hardware. Now drive 30 minutes to the nearest outlet mall and walk into the Coach outlet there. Pick up a bag that looks similar, same logo on the front. But the leather feels different, lighter, the hardware is thinner. That is because this bag was never in the boutique. It was never marked down from a higher price. It was designed and built from the start as a less expensive product for this store only. You can confirm it by checking the product code inside. If it starts with the letter F for factory, the bag was made specifically for the outlet. The boutique version does not carry that code. About 90% of what you find at a Coach outlet was made for that outlet. That marked down price tag is not a discount on the boutique product. The outlet version was always a separate, cheaper item. Your mother's Coach bag from the 90s weighs more than 3 of the current outlet bags stacked together. The zipper still works. The leather still smells like leather. That is not nostalgia. That is a material difference you can hold in your hands. I ranked 85 clothing and shoe brands from worst to best in my brand guide, with the exact quality checks to tell whether the brand you are holding is still the real thing or just the name printed on a cheaper copy. The link is right below in the video description or scan the QR code that's on screen right now. Number 5, Talbots. Talbots was the store you walked into every September without thinking about it. You did not browse. You went to the same section, picked up the wool cardigan in a new color, maybe tried on a pair of lined trousers, and left with a bag you knew would last. Nothing flashy, dependable. For your generation, that dependability was the entire point. In 2012, a private equity firm acquired Talbots for approximately $391 million. You already know which firm. Sycamore Partners, for the third time in this video. Ann Taylor in 2020, Chico's in 2024. And Talbots back in 2012 before either of them. All three now sit under a single holding company called KnitWell Group. Add in Loft, White House Black Market, and Soma. And KnitWell runs 6 brands with over $6 billion in combined annual sales. One of the largest specialty women's apparel companies in the country. And most of its customers have never heard of it. They think they are shopping at 6 different stores. They are shopping at one company with 6 different front doors. Since the acquisition, you may have noticed the same pattern we saw at Ann Taylor. Thinner fabrics, cheaper linings, more synthetic blends where wool used to be. The prices never dropped. But the cardigan you bought every fall is not the same cardigan anymore. You just assume everything is made that way now. You do not know that one company bought the brands you trusted and ran the same cost reduction formula on every one of them. Number 6, Michael Kors. Michael Kors did not get bought by private equity. Michael Kors did something arguably worse. The brand diluted itself. In the beginning, it was a genuine designer label. Runway shows at Fashion Week, celebrity red carpet placements. The bags were sought after partly because they were hard to find. You saw them at select department stores and standalone boutiques. Limited availability was part of the identity. Then the company, which renamed its parent to Capri Holdings, went after volume. Michael Kors showed up in outlet malls, then TJ Maxx, then Marshalls, then every flash sale online. The brand expanded into so many channels that it stopped communicating what it used to communicate. When every woman on the commuter train carried the same Michael Kors tote, it stopped being a personal choice and became a default. Meanwhile, the mainline collection kept premium pricing. But the customer who sees Michael Kors at an outlet for $120 on Saturday and at Nordstrom for $350 on Monday starts asking a fair question. What exactly justifies that difference? And increasingly, the honest answer was that the gap in quality was much smaller than the gap in price. The brand did not die, it just stopped meaning anything specific to anyone. But what happened to J.Crew makes every other brand on this list look like a minor inconvenience. Number 7. J.Crew. J.Crew was the catalog that a certain kind of American woman built her wardrobe around. It sat between high fashion and budget, in that middle space where quality fabrics met clean design. Under CEO Mickey Drexler, the cashmere was real, the cotton was heavyweight, and the fits were consistent. In 2011, TPG Capital and Leonard Green and Partners took J.Crew private in a $3 billion leveraged buyout. They used borrowed money to buy the company, then put that debt on J.Crew's own books. The interest payments alone ran as high as $30 million a quarter. Money that could have gone into fabric and design went to debt service instead. Over the following years, the private equity owners extracted approximately $765 million in management fees and dividends. Then they moved J.Crew's trademarks into an offshore subsidiary, shielding those assets from the company's own creditors. The tactic became so well known that people in finance started calling it getting J.Crewed. By May 2020, J.Crew filed for bankruptcy under $1.65 billion in debt, the first major retailer to file during the pandemic. It emerged later that year, but the J.Crew that came out of bankruptcy was not the same company that went in. The private equity firms that bought it walked away. The CEO who built it was gone. The new owners were the creditors, the people J.Crew owed money to, who converted the debt into shares because that was the only way to get anything back. The stores reopened, new management came in, the J.Crew label stayed on every tag. But the fabrics got thinner, the fits shifted, and the catalog that used to feel like a curated lookbook for grown women started showing clothes that looked better on the screen than in your hands. The debt did not come from bad sweaters. It came from financial engineering by people who treated a clothing company like a bank account. And J.Crew's 14,000 employees were the ones left holding the bag. Number 8. Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren is the biggest name on this list. And what makes this one different is that nobody else did this to them. There was no private equity buyout, no licensing deal, no parent company shaving costs. Ralph Lauren did this to Ralph Lauren. The brand launched in 1967 with neckties and grew into a full American lifestyle label. Quality fabrics, strong construction. For decades, the polo logo meant one consistent thing. Then the brand started branching. First a few diffusion lines, then more, then more. Over the years, Ralph Lauren created more than 20 different sub-labels. Some sat at the very top of the market, others landed in outlet malls, others showed up at Ross and TJ Maxx. Each one used different materials, came from different suppliers, and sold at a completely different price. But most of them carried some version of the same name and the same polo player logo. So a woman standing in Macy's sees Ralph Lauren on a dress. She walks into a Ralph Lauren outlet and sees the logo on a blazer. She spots it again at Ross the following week. All three products say Ralph Lauren. None of them are the same product. The fabrics are different. The construction is different. And the label tells her nothing about which version she is holding. The most expensive version and the cheapest version share the same pony on the chest. Most shoppers do not even know the sublines exist. When a brand creates cheaper copies of itself and sells them under the same logo at every price level, the question stops being who replaced it. The brand replaced itself. So here's the full picture. 8 brands, 6 parent companies, and every single one ran some version of the same playbook. Sycamore Partners bought Ann Taylor, Chico's, and Talbots years apart, then folded them all into a $6 billion holding company called KnitWell that most of their own customers have never heard of. PVH turned Calvin Klein into a name you can rent. Tapestry built a shadow version of Coach for outlets and hoped nobody would check the code inside. Capri Holdings spread Michael Kors so thin that the logo lost its meaning. TPG and Leonard Green treated J.Crew like a bank account, withdrew hundreds of millions, and left when the balance hit zero. And Ralph Lauren built so many cheaper versions of itself that the customer standing in the store cannot tell which one she is holding. The storefronts look the same. The logos stayed, the prices held or went up. What changed was what you actually get when you hand over your money. And here is what nobody says out loud. These acquisitions are public filings. The licensing agreements are documented. The ownership changes are on record. The information has been available the entire time. It just never made it onto the label where you could see it before you swiped your card. If this video changed how you look at your closet, hit subscribe. I cover brand quality, pricing, and the companies behind the labels every week. Let us know in the comments which of these brands you noticed the change in first. I read every single one.